Hi, I'm Fran Stoddard. In just a few minutes, you're going to see a classic Vermont PBS program, Land of Promise, produced in 1974 by Garry Simpson. Land of Promise tells the story of Franklin County, Vermont. The land, the history, the industry, the people, and the way of life in this northwest county. It was shot on film and is a great example of the type of programming that Vermont PBS made several decades ago. In honor of our 50th anniversary here at Vermont PBS, we're launching something new. It's called From the Archives. Over the past year, we've been finding, researching, and transferring programs from our past. These programs contain a treasure trove of our shared history and culture, and we're excited to make them available for viewing once again. To learn more about the processes of bringing these programs back for viewing, I've invited Vermont PBS Archivist Mary Albee here to talk about what it takes to get all these programs ready for broadcast. Mary, thanks for being here today.
Thanks for having me, Fran.
So, what are you finding in the archives? What kind of things?
Well, most of what I've found in the archives involve media on a variety of different formats from the past 50 years.
Such as?
So in addition to the 16 millimeter film, we also have lots of magnetic media. So that's different types of videotape. So we have 2-inch tape, 1-inch tape, 3/4 inch, D2, the list goes on.
Right, I remember them all.
So it's great because it's really a snapshot of broadcasting history. But in addition to our media, we also have paper documents and photographs that help tell the story of the early days of Vermont Educational Television and just educational television in general.
So sometimes it's putting those two things together, I would imagine.
Yes.
So do you start with the video and then search for more information, or?
That's a great question. Some of these formats, like the film, it takes a long time to get it to the step where you can easily view it.
Right, so what do you do?
So with the films in particular, it's been a multi-step process to really learn more information about them. So how we started was really just taking an inventory of what do we have here. We realized we have over 200 film reels in our vault, and we had to collect information that was written down on them and label them and actually send them out to a vendor who could use a film scanner to transfer them into files for us. So once we had those files and we were able to watch them more easily and rewatch them, that's really key to doing research. So I was able to look for faces that were, important people in Vermont history and in the history of our station. And then I could start to put the pieces together of finding out exactly what these films were and the finished programs that they belong to.
Well, that's pretty tricky. It's not like you have face recognition.
That's true. That's true. So one thing with this project, I've really relied on, current staff members here that have the institutional knowledge, but I've also had the opportunity to talk to some former staff members, such as Ann Curran. That's just a wealth of information about the history of the station, and they've really helped me understand who was involved in making these programs.
Right. So once you look at the film, again, we'll get back to could be chicken before the egg kind of thing. You're watching the films and then you're trying to find out more about them, or maybe you find out, you read something and then you try to find, is it on tape, is it on film?
Yes. So one great resource for me as a researcher has been our bound program guides.
Right.
Those basically contain all of the information of our broadcast schedules, and they also have descriptions of all the local programming that we did. So I would usually start there. But then I've also used resources at libraries and archives throughout the state, such as the UVM, special collections.
Wow.
And researching the programs in a broader way really helped me understand not just why they were important to the history of our station, but to our state as a whole.
Right. So what's been the most challenging in this process?
So the most challenging part for me has been just working with a variety of media formats. I thought I had a good background knowledge of these things, but there are definitely more than one occasion where I encountered a new tape and just thought, I'm going to have to do some research about that one. One way I've really overcome that challenge is by utilizing the specialized knowledge by people here in production and engineering who can assist me with things like playback for tapes and just understanding more about the format.
Do you have a playback for 2-inch tape? I mean, those things are bigger than a refrigerator.
No, we don't, but we've been lucky enough to be able to actually send those out to a vendor who has been sending us transfers of those programs as well. So it's been great to see some of the earliest programs come back and just really exciting for me.
Well, talk about other things that excite you. So what else has been exciting to discover, of discovery that you had?
Yeah, I would definitely say that just going through the journey of these films, one of the first 16 millimeter films that I recognized as I was doing my initial inventory was this one that I have here. And this is one that you watched a clip of earlier, but it's President Nixon's visit to Burlington in 1970.
Wow.
And so I'll just...
Which is labeled. Was on
Yes, yes.
This looks like an interesting one.
This is labeled, and yeah, as soon as I saw it, I definitely recognized just the importance of this just as a cultural heritage artifact. And I did some research right away, and I was able to find, a transcript of Nixon's speech here, and the Vermont Historical Society did a great write-up of it. But as far as I know, this was the only film that was captured of his visit.
Wow.
So,
and it's fascinating.
Yeah, and it was great to find this film and then to actually watch it for the first time. So when I talk about the journey of the films, it's sort of like seeing the label that's on it and then finally getting to view it and really just understand more about the context.
Wow. You had 2 films in there, so sometimes they aren't all as big as this either. So sometimes would you open up one of these cases and there'd be 2 or 3 films in them?
Yes, there's been lots of surprises for me, and it's definitely been an education in working with film and understanding how programs were put together using 16 millimeter film. So often they'll have an A-roll and a B-roll,
right.
And then the editors would put that together for the completed program. But it's also really valuable for us to look at that raw footage and those different reels that were unedited and to see, there's lots of gems in there that never made it to the final program.
Right.
So we're excited about that.
A-roll being somebody talking, the kind of the narration or interview stuff, and
Yes.
the B-roll, all the stuff that covers over that illustrates what we're
Yes.
seeing, right?
Exactly. And so in terms of just capturing life in Vermont in the 60s and 70s, at the time you might think B-roll is something that is just filling in the gaps of a program. But for us to look at some footage of Church Street in Burlington in 1971, now it's really a cultural artifact, and it's really important for us to restore that.
Right. Even it was fun to identify some of the buildings that are no longer there.
Yes, absolutely.
That we have lost. Well, we should move on. What you were about to show, Land of Promise.
Sure.
What should we know about that before we view it?
So Land of Promise began pre-production in 1972, and it's a film that showcases life in Franklin County, Vermont. It was written and directed by Garry Simpson, who was the first director of programming here, and the cinematographer was Phillips, who shot a lot of these original programs on film. One fun fact that I can tell you about it is that there was actually a French audio version also made for the film because of Franklin County's proximity to Canada, and they talk about that a lot in the film. And one of the translators of that audio track actually brought the film to France and screened it for 2,000 people there.
Oh, my word, that's fantastic.
And I found that out just in our paper archives, so that was another, just a great example of the types of things that I've been finding.
And probably showing it up in Canada as well. I mean, Canadians can see this station, but I would imagine there'd be special showings as well.
Yes, they did showings there and throughout Franklin County, Vermont.
So what's next? What else can we think about? We're just about to see Land of Promise, but what can we look forward to?
Right. So the first films that we've digitized have been some of our oldest, and also some of the programs that really highlight our station's history for our birthday. But now we're really going to be looking at the other films. So we were shooting on 16mm film up until 1981. So we're looking forward to restoring more of those. And the 2-inch tapes, which I mentioned as well. We're going to see some great music programs from the 1980s, some Christmas shows, things like that.
Oh, great. Well, thank you so much, Mary, for all of your insight and your amazing work with these archives. So you'll be seeing a lot more programs from the archives in the coming months and years, and we hope you enjoy seeing them as much as we have enjoyed rediscovering them. For more information about the archives, including a searchable database of Vermont films, visit our website at vermontpbs.org/from-the-archives. And now, here's Land of Promise.
This is the land, from Lake Champlain, along the Canadian border, to the crest of the Green Mountains, the northwest corner of Vermont, Franklin County. Samuel D. Champlain, the first white man to discover this land, as far back as 1609 called it a land of promise. The land of challenge, full of promise, drew early settlers forged of rugged stock. From across the seas they came, from Massachusetts, from Canada, New Hampshire, and Connecticut. The adventurous, the impoverished, the oppressed, the resolute, to the land of pioneers, full of promise. Here, to the rich slopes of the Missisquoi Valley they came. It took good people to clear the trees, pull the stumps, and scythe the grain. But our ancestors were solid 200 years ago. So it was a wedding. Rugged land, hardy people. The land responded, producing a harvest of food and animals. But the important crop was people. A special breed, a stout amalgam.
We are the French,
the Dutch,
the Scottish,
the Germans,
the Irish, the Poles,
the English.
We are the people of Franklin County.
200 years ago, we planted farms.
We built square homes and sturdy barns.
And out of the wilderness, we built schools,
stores and churches.
We created towns in which to live. We put down roots to stay.
in towns named Fairfield, first settled in 1787 by Joseph Wheeler on the site of an old Indian hunting ground. And Richford, the most widely used entry port by Canadian immigrants who used the plentiful supply of timber to make woodworking the town's main industry. Georgia Center, a shipping center that in 1800 was the most flourishing town in northern Vermont. Enosburg Falls, famous in the past as the manufacturing town of widely used horse liniment and patent medicines. Swanton, the first white settlement by Europeans in Vermont. The French settled here in 1740. Highgate Center, first settled after the Revolutionary War by Hessian soldiers who thought they were in Canada. East Berkshire, on a high plateau overlooking the Missisquoi River Valley, this has always been an important farming community. Fletcher, first settled by John Fullerton, who made a clearing in the woods, planted a crop of wheat, and then returned to New Hampshire to get his wife. Fairfax, located at the Great Falls on the Lamoille River, this was formerly a manufacturing town of great importance. Franklin, the scene of a major battle when the Fenian movement attempted to conquer Canada and set up an Irish republic. St. Albans City, which as the headquarters for the Central Vermont Railway, grew into the state's largest railroad center and the seat of culture for northwestern Vermont. Montgomery, situated like Mount Zion of old at the foothills of the mountains, it early became a logging and trading center. Bakersfield, named after settler Joseph Baker, became an educational center over 100 years ago with 3 academies of higher learning. Sheldon, built at the site of iron ore deposits which were used to manufacture kettles and metal parts for sleighs and wagons. And St. Albans Town, built on the bay during the height of the shipping period on Lake Champlain.
Our links with the past are visible still. Change was the order of survival, of progress.
We learned that times of change bring opportunity in Franklin County. When the sieve is shaken, the large pebbles rise to the top.
Nothing is immutable. Our economy is constantly changing, and the signs of change are all around us. In attics, in barns, in backyards, and in old photo albums. Oxen transported our produce. Horse and buggy moved us around. Snow rollers packed the roads with snow for sleigh travel. Sheep were raised for mutton and wool. Timber was cut for potash and pulpwood, for lumber and for firewood. People were isolated and were of necessity self-sufficient. A man had to be a man, or he couldn't survive in the old days.
With the passing years came an increasing need for products, so manufacturing plants came into being. They were wedded to rivers for the water power. They ground the grain, molded plowshares, and made axes, butter tubs, wagon wheels. And then the railroads brought great change and opened up Franklin County for commerce with easy transportation. St. Albans became an active railroad center and employed over 2,000 workers. Also during this time, dairy production increased. St. Albans shipped out butter in such quantities that it was called the butter capital of the world. More workmen were needed, so craftsmen came from all over the world. People traveled. Steamboats plied Lake Champlain. Streetcars traversed the distance between St. Albans City and St. Albans Bay. Inns and hotels prospered. Guests came to Sheldon to drink the medicinal mineral waters. Young people studied. The one-room school of 1901. But technology advanced, and with modern machines, many laborious jobs were eliminated. first by hand, and then by machine, and finally not needed at all with modern electric refrigeration. Many products were no longer needed: hoop-skirt corsets and high-button shoes. The lack of demand for spavin horse medicine has long since forced the closing of this Enosburg factory. And through the years, scores of other enterprises have ceased to operate. Change reflects the needs of the marketplace.
So today, here in this rich land, our residents carry, worry, and are troubled. 32,000 people to feed. Even though we feel pride for our ancestors who are planted on the hills of our village graveyards, problems have developed. When jobs fail, hope fails. The farmers meet to talk it over. Small marginal farms are dead. The larger farms are mechanized. Less need for agricultural workers. Unemployment. The young people are leaving. They don't stay if they can't find jobs. People in business meet to talk it over. Decreased jobs and less income mean less profits. How do we fight it? The labor force meets to talk it over. Railroads have died, feed mills gone, sawmill out of logs, tannery gone. Woolen mills moved. How do we deal with it?
What are we going to do about it? Do we quit?
Do we accept the challenge, or do we move on to another community?
Whoever said it was going to be easy? Or is this a time for change? Maybe the time for great opportunities.
It's not easy today, but we've had hard times before.
We have met conflicts in the past. 3 flags have fought over this land, but we have survived.
In 1816 and froze to death, it snowed all summer long. It wasn't easy.
We were men of peace, but Washington, D.C. was in danger, and Abraham Lincoln sent out the call. What may we expect of Vermont? So we became soldiers, all the boys of the town.
And while we were struggling on the bloody slopes of Gettysburg and in the jungle of the wilderness, the Confederates brought the fighting right into our backyards in Vermont. They staged the St. Albans raid, tried to rob the banks in Sheldon, and escaped over the line into Canada.
But we stuck it out. We fought all the way down to the last charge at Appomattox until the South surrendered.
It was a war of brother against brother, and too many of our young men were killed.
We have also experienced the disaster of fire. In the 1895 St. Albans fire, we saw much that we had built disappear in smoke.
We suffered and often died with scarlet fever, cholera, tuberculosis, and smallpox.
We tried to fight the waters of the 1927 flood, but we had to stand by and see the roads and bridges washed away, along with the railroads. Houses and barns were carried downstream, and telephone and electrical wires were ripped down. It was a disaster, but we weathered it.
And who can forget the times without food during the 1929 financial crash and the Depression of the 30s? Almost 1/2 of our population left Franklin County.
We've had many problems in the past. We've had fires, flood, we had the Depression, and all those problems was overcome. We have a beautiful agricultural county, and we are going to do our best to keep it that way, and we don't want to forget that.
Well, we in Franklin County, recognizing that we do have some problems and obstacles to overcome, face the future with a lot of optimism, high spirits, recognizing that with our clean environment, they're free of air pollution, our streams are clean, that with the grace and help of God that we'll be able to survive in the future and improve our community life.
Look to the land and discover it anew. What a land our pioneers selected. What a land today we inherit. Always the earth to give strength and sustenance to her people. Look to the land.
We have more farms and more dairy cows than in any other county in Vermont. Our milking cows comprise almost 1/5 of the state's total, and they are productive, doubling their output in just the last 30 years, producing now over 370 million pounds of milk a year. This rotating milking parlor is an example of the newest equipment and the best techniques that are now employed to produce the largest quantity of milk with the greatest efficiency. Gilbert Boucher's carousel milking parlor in Highgate Center allows 60 cows to be milked by one man in just 1 hour.
We here in Franklin County are just proud of our dairy industry and our agriculture. We're located here with some of the finest land in the state of Vermont. We have more cows and more farms than any other county. We do make an important contribution to the total economy by producing some $26 million of annual income.
Dairy farming brings in more than 1/2 of Franklin County's gross income. Most of our fluid milk is transported to the Boston market. The 40% that remains in the county is consumed as fluid milk or is made into nutritious milk products. Cottage cheese is made in this Hood plant in St. Albans by turning skim milk into curds and then mixing in a cream dressing for flavor to create a natural, low-fat, high-protein food. This plant processes and packages more cottage cheese than any other plant in the state, 15 million pounds yearly. And the Dairyman St. Albans Cooperative Creamery produces more powdered dry milk than any other plant in Vermont. Excess milk produced in the county during peak seasons is dehydrated into wholesome powdered milk and then easily shipped without refrigeration all over the world. Don't underestimate the overall economic value of our dairy industry. Many other industries are supported by agriculture. The Swanton Lime Works supplies agricultural lime for the land. Equipment sales and manufacturers are dependent upon the farmer, as are trucking lines, creameries, fertilizer plants, and feed mills.
Good thing that farmers and farms in Franklin County should be encouraged to continue for the good of the environment of the county and the general economy of the area.
Forever, look to the land, land of sweet vigor, deep and mellow, well-watered, fertile with humus, with minerals and living organisms. Maple sugaring in the spring. An ecological parable. A little care, a little stewardship, instead of destructiveness, and man lives in harmony again with the skies and the land. The traditional practice with old sure-footed friends is the reliable way to collect the sap over difficult terrain. Horses are the bridesmaids in our parable, the wedding of man and trees. United, the trees give us oxygen and food, and man supplies care and protection, joined in wedded trust. Over 1/4 of all the maple sugar production in Vermont comes from one county, Franklin. Our maple producers are the leaders in the state, using many methods. Plastic tubing is used to collect the sweet nectar of the maples. Gravity, aided with pumps, produces a bounteous and clean supply of sap. We fire some with wood and some with oil. We do it all ways. But the end product is the same, either way. 4 million gallons of sap boil down each spring. Fancy, grade A, grade B, the honey of the earth, the lifeblood of nature, the ambrosia of the gods. One of the pleasures of living in a land of promise, close to nature. And we make our promise to the land, to protect it, to help keep it green and productive, to keep the rivers and lakes clean, to discover how to live in harmony with the land. It is land worth having. And we promise to save the limited meadowland for rich agricultural use for our sons and for those who come after. Always the value of the land increases. Live with it. Husband the soil. Care for it. Look to the land.
Our forests still supply much needed timber for our expanding economy. Selected harvesting, such as practiced in this Swanton pine forest, assures continued cutting for the coming years. Today, our rich timber resources are being rediscovered. Careful supervised logging operations guarantees increased wood production in the future. This Enosburg sawmill, and many others, cut soft and hardwoods for local use. Our Franklin County forests supply lumber for local woodworking industries. The Vermont Pallet and Lumber Company mill in Georgia uses beech, maple, and birch to manufacture hardwood pallets for shipping platforms. Maple furniture is created by the Sweat Combings Company in Richford. Hard rock maple boards are cut, glued, sanded, mortised, doweled, turned, fitted, sprayed, rubbed, and assembled to produce traditional Vermont maple furniture. Ice hockey sticks are also made in Richford. The Larson Industries fashion strong-grained ash and elm into sturdy ice hockey sticks. This expanding business is the largest manufacturer of hockey sticks in the United States, fabricating 750,000 items from superior to custom quality. Pulpwood is shipped to the Missisquoi Specialty Board Company in Sheldon Springs to be converted into pulp and paper products. Hemlock and spruce are stockpiled until ready for processing. This is the oldest industry still operating in Franklin County. Today, Franklin County's large agricultural income is vital to Vermont's economy. The products from the land make Franklin a most important county to the state.
But there is another side to our contribution to Vermont's economy, which consists of successful businesses and manufacturing industries that employ 2/3 of our labor force. The Progressive Union Carbide plant in St. Albans employs over 600 people. 90% of all the flashlight cases in the United States are manufactured here. Other modern manufacturing centers are situated in accessible locations throughout the county. This St. Albans Fonda container plant makes paper plates and food containers using the most advanced techniques. Industry has changed in the past to meet consumer needs, and we can expect industry to change and adapt in the future.
Transportation is important to industrial success, and Franklin County is blessed with 3 railroads for heavy freight hauling. And convenient Amtrak passenger service has been reestablished between Montreal and New York City. A county airport in Highgate serves the region, ensuring speed and convenience to air travelers. Well-maintained paved roads crisscross the county, and the latest 4-lane superhighway connects Franklin County to Canada and to Boston with fleets of trucks. We are the gateway for the flow of products to and from Montreal and New England. Electrical power is also necessary for our expanding industry. We are close to hydroelectrical sources as well as atomic energy generators. In addition, we are supplied through huge pipelines with bulk gas fuel direct from the Canadian gas fields. But people are the keynote to industrial success. The varied industries of our county have prospered because of good people. It takes good, reliable workers to create successful businesses. And since Franklin County people have been fostered on the qualities of enterprise and industry, we deliver these characteristics. No matter what the product, Franklin County employees keep the industrial wheels turning. Many manufacturers have recognized the advantages of locating in the uncongested northwest area of Vermont, and the number of new businesses has steadily increased. New industrial parks are being developed to aid new industries. Forward-looking businesses are making new computer-age products in Franklin County, such as the Jonergan plant in Swanton that prints data processing forms and labels. We still have unique industries turning out traditional products that require fine and individual workmanship. The Leader Evaporator Center in St. Albans fabricates tanks and boiling pans for maple sugar farmers. For the future, new processes are needed. Technology and growth will create new products that will require complex manufacturing techniques. It is a natural evolution. Our modern industry has prospered, and Franklin County produces an abundance of products that are shipped to markets around the world. But population growth has caused the need for more jobs, and we need to create businesses that will employ 250 new young workers who are joining our labor force each year in Franklin County. Look to the youth.
We're blessed in this area with a lot of open space. The greatest challenge that we have before us is to try to provide the job opportunities here and still maintain the area as a fine place to live.
Community leaders are aware of the problem and are continuously working to promote and to help establish new industry that is acceptable to our environmental standards. Dirty industry that will pollute the areas where we live is not wanted. Clean industry that will keep our promise to the land is encouraged. We are selective. Industry and government should serve the people. Our most important products are our sons and daughters. Our richest asset and greatest gift to the nation is our young people, who carry with them a heritage of which they can be proud. Outstanding men have come from Franklin County. President of the United States, Chester A. Arthur, was born in Franklin County. On this site, near the town of Fairfield, the wife of a Baptist minister gave birth to our 21st president in 1829. Chester A. Arthur carried the Vermont character with him as he rose in a distinguished career from a schoolmaster to a lawyer, a Civil War soldier, politician, and finally, from 1881 to 1885, the nation's chief executive. John Sachs, one of the most popular writers of his day, came from Franklin County. This stone marks his birthplace at Highgate in 1816. He brightened our Vermont heritage as a celebrated humorist, editor, and poet during the 1850s and 60s. John Gregory Smith of St. Albans was governor of Vermont from 1863 to 1865, as well as being the president of the Northern Pacific and Vermont Central Railroads. His son, Edward C. Smith, also served as Vermont's governor during the Spanish-American War. Governor Edward Smith's home, now used as an inn, may still be seen in St. Albans. Senator Warren R. Austin of Highgate Center served his country as United States Senator for 15 years and then became our first U.S. ambassador to the United Nations. Senator and State's Attorney Consuelo Bailey of Fairfield had the distinction in 1954 of being the first and only woman in the United States to be elected to the office of Lieutenant Governor. We come from good stock, the salt of the earth. Our strength lies in people. Community spirit and cooperation are inseparable parts of our heritage, as demonstrated by the Highgate Center Volunteer Fire Department.
We may seem reserved. This is our independent spirit. But when trouble comes, everyone is there to help.
It took the quiet people who lived their day-to-day lives here, as well as those who became famous, to make this area such a pleasant place as Franklin County is to live.
There are many different persons or types of persons in Franklin County, very genuine, wonderful neighbors, and it's too bad the Lord didn't make more of us.
This town meeting will come to order. Before I read the warning, I would like to just take...
Over and above our legacy of the land, we enjoy the heritage of freedom that our forefathers struggled to establish. Town Meeting Day, a true example of participatory democracy in action. By our vote, we approve tax rates and the budgets for schools and highways. By our vote, we elect town officials.
Raise your right hand. I solemnly swear that I will faithfully execute the office of selectman for the town of Shellen to the best of my judgment and abilities according to law. So help me God. I want to sign right here.
And we still live in harmony with our neighbors in spite of differences. Each person is entitled to speak, each is important, and each is equal.
Moderator, I would like to say at this time that I think but if it was brought up, it's against the constitutional right to have your name published in the town report.
In our uncrowded way of life, we can identify verities, and through self-determination, we can make the values that are important a part of our lives. Using our town meetings and our representative state government, we can act in the future to plan properly for growth, and we can assist state and regional commissions to help locate industry in our area so that new jobs may be created for our young people. It is our right to do this, our obligation.
We have worked to make our towns better communities in which to live. And through inter-town cooperation, we've been able to build the beautiful Missisquoi Valley Union High School. Being proud of our young people, we've tried to provide superior schools for their education. Serving the towns of Swanton, Highgate, and Franklin, the Missisquoi Valley Union High School supplies the ideal modern facility for the intellectual, physical, and spiritual growth of each student. Pride is reflected by the students as they prepare themselves for the years ahead. They give the best they've got.
We are prepared. A familiar sight to all travelers on Route 89 is the large radar domes on St. Albans Hill. This is the U.S. St. Albans Air Force Base. We are cooperating in the national interest to protect our northern border from surprise aircraft attack. 128 military men operate this computer-assisted defense outpost to provide instant aircraft identification. If a warning is issued, our own interceptor airplanes are in the air in less than 5 minutes to ensure the peace that we now enjoy.
We are fortunate to have good neighbors to the north. We've always fostered friendship with Canadians, and there's never been a fortress on the border between us. Perhaps we are an example. If we and our brother Canadians can live together peacefully, so can the other peoples of the world.
We enjoy the advantages of living the good life in Franklin County. Our uncrowded lifestyle is appreciated by many out-of-staters who want to move here to share our adventure in living. We are surrounded by a vacation land with unlimited recreational opportunities. A winter and summer playground, a year-round, never-ending delight, all in easy reach, and we make the most of it. We have scenic views unequaled in all the world. Blessed by nature's unspoiled resources, we realize, as do outsiders, that this is a wonderful place to live. You can still thrill to the close contact with nature in this outdoor state, with its wooded hills, rolling farmlands, and unspoiled waters.
Franklin County is a nice place to live. We have all types of sports, winter and summer, and it's a great place to raise a family.
I love the mountains and the streams and the change of seasons. It's a beautiful place to live. In fact, it's the best place in the world to live.
In the spring, it's maple sugar time, and St. Albans is host to the Franklin County Maple Sugar Festival. The air smells clean and sweet with burning wood and maple syrup. A parade down the main street leads the crowds to the demonstrations of sugaring held on the town green in the sweetest city in the world. Games and contests such as throwing the sap buckets provide entertainment, and the traditional sugar on snow party is enjoyed with freshly boiled maple syrup. June in Enosburg, the dairy center of the world. A new dairy queen for the state is crowned each year to reign over the dairy festivities. It is fitting that Vermont's Dairy Festival takes place in the very county with the most dairy farms and the most milking cows, Franklin County. July brings the excitement of the annual Swanton Festival, when a good time is had by all in the traditional Vermont carnival atmosphere. The most famous residents of Swanton are the Queen Swans, who live on the village green. They were given to the town as a gesture of friendship by Queen Elizabeth of England.
I came here 22 years ago, and I've lived in all 4 sections of this country, and I wouldn't spend another day in any other place but Franklin County. I've raised my family here and find it to be a very, very happy combination of rural and urban living.
The first winter in Texas was like heaven, but the second winter was like hell. I was sure glad to get back to Vermont.
If the New Yorker wants to come and live in Franklin County, which they do, we must have something good here.
Perform non-combatant service in the Armed Forces of the United States.
Let us remember that we enjoy the benefits of a way of life full of freedom and opportunity that appeals to people of other countries. Many people each year choose to become citizens of this nation and choose to share our way of life with us.
And that I take this obligation freely, without any mental reservation, or purpose of evasion. So help me God.
Look from where you came. Look at what was endured. Look at where you can go. The story of the future lies before us. It is ours to make, and we accept the challenge. We are aware that we belong to this community in a proud way. We love this land, and we look ahead with assurance, carrying with us our rich heritage, firm confidence, and Yankee perseverance as we go. We have the people, and the spirit of the people will make it happen. Look to the people. Land of opportunity. Land of promise.